The Voynich Manuscript, the book no one can read. Imagine opening a book that has defeated the greatest cryptographers, historians, linguists, and even modern artificial intelligence. A book that has existed for centuries, yet no one can confidently tell you what even a single sentence truly means. Its pages are filled with elegant handwriting unlike any known language on Earth. Strange plants that don't exist, mysterious diagrams, celestial symbols, and illustrations that seem to belong to another world. Some believe it's the greatest unsolved puzzle in human history. Others think it's an elaborate medieval hoax. And a few believe it contains knowledge that humanity was never supposed to understand. This is the Voynich Manuscript. Over the next few minutes, we're going to examine the real evidence behind one of history's greatest mysteries. We'll uncover where this extraordinary manuscript came from, why experts have spent more than a century trying and failing to decode it, and whether modern technology has finally brought us closer to solving its secrets. Because what you're about to see is far stranger than fiction. The story begins not in the Middle Ages, but in the year 1912. That year, a Polish rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich was searching through a collection of ancient manuscripts kept by Jesuit scholars in Italy. As someone who specialized in rare books, Voynich had seen countless medieval works throughout his career. But one volume immediately stood apart from everything else. Its worn leather binding gave no hint of what lay inside. When he carefully opened its pages, he found something completely unexpected. Instead of familiar Latin, Greek, or Arabic writing, every page was covered in elegant symbols unlike any alphabet known to historians. The handwriting was remarkably consistent, suggesting that whoever created the manuscript wrote it fluently rather than inventing random symbols. Even more surprising were the illustrations. Detailed botanical drawings filled many of the pages. At first glance, they resembled medieval herbal books, yet almost none of the plants could be identified. Many appeared to combine the roots of one species, the leaves of another, and flowers that simply don't exist in nature. Then came elaborate astronomical charts. Circular diagrams filled with stars, zodiac symbols, and carefully arranged patterns hinted that the author possessed considerable knowledge of astronomy, or at least wanted readers to believe so. Other pages contained intricate fold-out illustrations, something rarely found in ordinary medieval books because they required far more skill and expense to produce. The manuscript itself consists of more than 240 surviving pages made from high-quality vellum, a durable parchment prepared from animal skin. Creating a manuscript of this size would have required enormous amounts of time, craftsmanship, and money. This was clearly not the work of someone casually experimenting with strange symbols. Everything about it suggested careful planning. The writing remained astonishingly uniform from beginning to end. The illustrations were detailed and deliberate. The layout followed recognizable patterns, almost as if the unknown language obeyed consistent grammatical rules. Nothing about it looked random, and that's exactly what makes the Voynich Manuscript so extraordinary. If this were merely a fake, why invest hundreds of pages into creating an entirely new writing system? Why illustrate dozens of unknown plants with remarkable precision? Why include astronomical diagrams and complex fold-out pages that would require months, perhaps years, of painstaking work? These questions have fascinated researchers for over a century. As news of the mysterious manuscript spread across Europe and America, experts from nearly every discipline became interested. Historians searched for clues hidden within the artwork. Linguists compared the symbols with hundreds of ancient writing systems. Cryptographers attempted to break what they believed was an incredibly sophisticated code. Later, even computer scientists and artificial intelligence would join the search. Yet, despite generations of effort, no one has been able to produce a translation accepted by the academic community. Not one. Which raises an unsettling possibility. What if this book was never meant to be read? Or perhaps we're asking the wrong question entirely. Because before anyone can understand what the manuscript says, there's an even bigger mystery to solve. Who actually created it? And why? Because before anyone can understand what the manuscript says, there's an even bigger mystery to solve. How was it created with such extraordinary precision? The more researchers examined the Voynich Manuscript, the more they realized that its greatest mystery wasn't just the strange language. It was the incredible discipline behind every single page. Whoever created this manuscript wasn't experimenting or making things up as they went. Every line suggests careful planning long before the ink ever touched the parchment. One detail immediately caught the attention of experts. Throughout more than 240 pages, they found virtually no spelling mistakes, no crossed-out words, No corrections squeezed between lines, and almost no signs of hesitation. That might not sound unusual today, but for a handwritten medieval manuscript, it's incredibly rare. Think about how difficult it would be to invent an entirely new writing system from scratch. Now, imagine using that system flawlessly across hundreds of pages without accidentally changing symbols, forgetting words, or correcting a single sentence. Even experienced medieval scribes made mistakes while copying familiar texts. Yet the author of the Voynich Manuscript appears astonishingly confident from beginning to end. This raises an obvious question. Was the writer copying from another document that has since disappeared, or had they mastered this mysterious script so completely that writing it felt as natural as speaking their own language? Either explanation points to an enormous amount of preparation, making the manuscript even more difficult to dismiss as a simple prank or meaningless collection of symbols. The consistency doesn't end with the handwriting. Researchers have noticed that certain words appear repeatedly in predictable places, while others are found only in specific sections of the book. The symbols follow recognizable patterns that resemble the structure of real languages, something random nonsense rarely does. To cryptographers, these patterns suggest that whatever this text represents, it follows rules, and that is exactly why the manuscript has refused to disappear into history. Every new analysis seems to answer one question while creating two more. The deeper experts look, the more the book behaves like a genuine document written with purpose rather than an elaborate joke. Today, more than a century after Wilfred Voynich first revealed the manuscript to the world, the original book is preserved inside the Voynich Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. It is kept under carefully controlled temperature, humidity, and lighting conditions to protect its fragile vellum pages from damage, ensuring that future generations can continue studying one of history's greatest mysteries. Very few people ever have the opportunity to see the original manuscript up close. Instead, researchers from around the world rely on high-resolution digital scans released by Yale, allowing anyone with an internet connection to examine every page in extraordinary detail. Every symbol, every illustration, and every tiny brushstroke has been studied countless times by historians, linguists, cryptographers, computer scientists, and now even artificial intelligence. Yet despite all of that effort, the central mystery remains exactly where it was more than 100 years ago. We know where the manuscript is. We know what it's made of. We know roughly when it was created, but we still have no definitive answer to the question that matters most. Who wrote this extraordinary book? And what secret were they trying to preserve? For decades, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Voynich manuscript wasn't what it said, but when it was actually created. Without knowing its age, historians couldn't determine whether it was a genuine medieval document or a much later forgery designed to fool collectors. Some believed it was centuries old, while others argued it might have been produced during the Renaissance as an elaborate hoax. That debate continued until modern science finally stepped in. In 2009, researchers performed radiocarbon dating on the manuscript's vellum, the animal skin used to create its pages. Unlike ink, which is much harder to date accurately, vellum can reveal when the animal itself was alive. The results were remarkable. With approximately 95% confidence, scientists concluded that the parchment was produced sometime between 1404 and 1438. That discovery immediately eliminated many popular theories. If the parchment truly came from the early 15th century, then the manuscript couldn't have been created hundreds of years later to deceive wealthy collectors. Whatever the book really is, its materials are genuinely medieval, making the mystery even more intriguing. But knowing when the parchment was made still didn't answer another important question. Where was it written? Researchers searched the manuscript for clues hidden not in the mysterious text, but in its illustrations. Among the many unusual drawings is what appears to be a small fortified city surrounded by walls. At first glance, it seems insignificant, but historians noticed something fascinating. Several architectural features resemble defensive structures commonly built in northern Italy during the 15th century. While this isn't considered definitive proof, many scholars believe the manuscript most likely originated somewhere in that region. If that theory is correct, it means the book may have been created in one of Europe's greatest centers of learning during the Renaissance, a period filled with scientific discoveries, secret societies, alchemy, astronomy, and rapidly expanding knowledge. It was an age when scholars often mixed science with mysticism, making the Voynich Manuscript feel strangely at home in its historical setting. Then, more than a century later, the manuscript appears again in the historical record under extraordinary circumstances. According to a letter discovered inside the manuscript, it was reportedly purchased in the early 17th century by Emperor Rudolf II of the Holy Roman Empire. Rudolf was famous throughout Europe for his obsession with astrology, alchemy, rare books, and hidden knowledge. His court attracted astronomers, magicians, philosophers, and some of the greatest scientific minds of the era. The letter claims that Rudolf paid 600 gold ducats for the mysterious manuscript. At the time, that was an enormous fortune. To put it into perspective, 600 gold ducats could purchase valuable property or support a wealthy household for years. Whatever Rudolf believed he was buying, he clearly considered it priceless. If the history of the Voynich Manuscript is mysterious, its contents are even more extraordinary. Researchers generally agree that the manuscript is divided into 6 major sections. Although no one can read the text, the illustrations reveal that the author organized the book with a clear purpose. The drawings change dramatically from one section to another, almost as if each chapter explores a completely different subject. It's one of the strongest pieces of evidence suggesting this wasn't random writing, but a carefully structured work created according to a well-defined plan. The first and largest section is known as the botanical section. At first glance, it looks surprisingly familiar. Nearly every page contains a large illustration of a plant, accompanied by several paragraphs of the mysterious script. Medieval Europe produced countless herbal books describing medicinal plants, so historians initially assumed the Voynich manuscript was simply another example of that tradition. But that theory quickly began to fall apart. The more botanists studied the illustrations, the stranger they became. Some plants resemble real species, but only partially. A flower may look familiar, while its roots belong to an entirely different plant. Leaves often match no known botanical family, and stems appear to connect impossible combinations of features. In many cases, researchers can identify one part of the drawing, but the rest seems completely foreign. Some experts have suggested that the artist intentionally combined multiple species into a single illustration. Others believe the drawings represent plants that have since become extinct or were poorly copied from older sources. There are even theories claiming the illustrations were deliberately altered to hide the identity of valuable medicinal herbs from outsiders. But none of these explanations solves the mystery completely. Out of the more than 100 botanical illustrations found throughout the manuscript, a significant number still cannot be confidently identified today. That raises an unsettling possibility. What if the plants were never meant to represent real species at all? Could they be symbolic? Imaginary? Or perhaps they belong to a system of knowledge that has been completely lost to history. And that's exactly why the botanical section continues to fascinate researchers. It doesn't merely ask us to identify strange plants. It forces us to question whether we're even looking at the illustrations the right way. As the pages continue, the subject suddenly changes. The detailed plants disappear, replaced by circles, stars, and intricate geometric designs. This is what researchers call the astronomical and astrological section. Unlike the botanical pages, these illustrations seem to focus on the sky. Large circular diagrams dominate the manuscript. Some resemble medieval astronomical charts, while others appear similar to astrological wheels used throughout Europe during the 15th century. Several pages clearly contain recognizable zodiac symbols, including familiar constellations that people still know today. The presence of zodiac imagery immediately attracted historians because astrology played a major role in medieval life. Physicians often consulted the stars before treating patients. Rulers sought advice from astrologers before making important decisions. And scholars believed that celestial movements influenced both nature and human destiny. Could the author of the Voynich manuscript have shared those beliefs? It's certainly possible, but once again, the manuscript refuses to provide simple answers. Although many zodiac signs can be recognized, they are surrounded by mysterious writing that no one understands. Additional symbols fill the diagrams, yet their purpose remains unknown. Some circles appear to map the heavens, while others resemble calendars or complex systems for measuring time. A few illustrations are unlike anything found in surviving medieval manuscripts, making comparison almost impossible. The astronomical pages become even more intriguing when viewed alongside the botanical section. Many medieval herbal books connected specific plants with particular stars, seasons, or zodiac constellations. If the Voynich Manuscript follows a similar tradition, then these two sections may not be separate at all. They could be parts of a single system, one explaining plants, the other explaining when or how they should be used. No one knows for certain, and that's the frustrating beauty of the manuscript. Every illustration appears meaningful, every page feels deliberate, every symbol seems to belong exactly where it is. Yet after more than 600 years, humanity still cannot explain what any of it truly means. And as mysterious as these first two sections are, the chapters that follow become even stranger. After the astronomical pages, the manuscript changes once again. The next major chapter is known as the biological section, and it is unlike anything found in ordinary medieval books. Instead of plants or stars, the pages are filled with drawings of women surrounded by strange pools, tubes, and interconnected structures. Many figures appear to be bathing or moving through green liquid, while others interact in ways historians still cannot explain. Because the text remains unreadable, no one knows whether these scenes describe medicine, human anatomy, symbolic rituals, or something entirely different. What is clear is that the illustrations follow a consistent visual style, not suggesting they were created according to a deliberate plan rather than imagination alone. The manuscript then shifts into what scholars call the pharmaceutical section. Here, full plants almost disappear. Instead, the pages focus on individual roots, leaves, flowers, and small botanical parts placed beside flasks, jars, and containers that closely resemble medical equipment used by medieval apothecaries. Many researchers believe this section may describe medicines or methods for preparing herbal remedies. The repeated arrangement of plant fragments, containers, and short paragraphs suggests an organized reference system, although the true purpose remains unknown because the text has never been translated. The final major chapter looks completely different. Most illustrations disappear, replaced by dense pages of continuous writing. Only a few small symbols remain, making the mysterious script itself the main focus. Historians believe these pages may contain instructions, explanations, summaries, or recipes connected to the earlier sections, but without understanding the language, every theory remains speculation. Across all 6 sections, the manuscript contains roughly 170,000 characters, arranged into thousands of words usually between 2 and 10 symbols long. Every page is written from left to right, with remarkably consistent spacing and handwriting, reinforcing the idea that the author followed a genuine writing system rather than drawing random symbols. This becomes even more interesting when computers analyze the text. Instead of behaving like meaningless gibberish, the manuscript follows statistical patterns remarkably similar to real human languages. One of the strongest examples is Zipf's law, a mathematical pattern found in languages around the world. The Voynich Manuscript follows this pattern surprisingly well, suggesting its words were arranged according to meaningful linguistic rules rather than chance. Researchers have also identified about 22 recurring symbols that form the foundation of the writing. Some resemble Latin letters, others look like numbers, while several are unlike any known alphabet. Their shapes remain remarkably consistent across hundreds of pages, and they appear in highly predictable combinations. Further analysis revealed something even stranger. The manuscript seems to contain 2 distinct writing styles, commonly called Language A and Language B. They are not completely different languages, but 2 recognizable patterns with different vocabularies and symbol usage. This could indicate multiple scribes, different subjects, or another organizing principle that remains unknown. The placement of symbols is equally unusual. Certain characters almost always appear at the beginning of words, while others are found near the end. Some combinations repeat hundreds of times, while others almost never occur together. These strict rules make the manuscript behave less like random writing and more like a carefully designed communication system, or perhaps an advanced cipher. And yet, despite more than a century of research, no one has successfully translated a single sentence accepted by the academic community. The manuscript continues to reveal structure, without revealing its meaning. That leads to the final question: who actually wrote it? Today, the most widely accepted theory is that the manuscript was created by an unknown but highly educated scholar living in northern Italy during the early 15th century. The radiocarbon dating, together with architectural clues found in the illustrations, supports this conclusion. Other famous names, including Roger Bacon and Leonardo da Vinci, have often been connected to the manuscript, but modern evidence doesn't support either theory. the dates simply don't match the parchment itself, making both explanations highly unlikely. And that's what makes the Voynich Manuscript unique. For centuries, emperors, historians, linguists, cryptographers, mathematicians, and now artificial intelligence have all tried to solve it. Yet no one can confidently explain what its pages truly say. Perhaps one day a forgotten document, or an even more advanced AI, will finally unlock its secrets. Or perhaps the Voynich Manuscript will remain exactly what it has been for over 600 years, the world's most mysterious, unreadable book. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to subscribe for more videos exploring forgotten books, lost civilizations, and unexplained artifacts. Leave a like and tell me in the comments, what do you think the Voynich Manuscript really is? An encrypted scientific encyclopedia? A medieval hoax? Or something humanity still isn't ready to understand? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next mystery.